Never did really understand math. I didn't do well in math, and I turned out just fine. I don't know, I'm not really a math person. We've all heard these kind of statements before. They're all over the place. And unfortunately, I think that they represent how most Americans feel about math as a whole. On today's episode of Montgomery Mathematics, I want to talk to you about why this idea of being a math person or not being a math person can actually be harmful, and why that kind of division is just flat out false. When people tell you that they're not really a math person, usually what they're trying to say is that they didn't enjoy math in school, they didn't understand what they were doing, and they haven't seen any connection between what they sat through and their current lives. Sadly, a lot of that is probably true. Math is particularly hard to make interesting, and a lot of times it's presented in a way that's not only boring, but also completely disconnected from anything else. I get that feeling. But we need to take a few minutes to talk about the messages that we're sending the students around us. There's a lot wrapped up in that statement, "I'm not a math person." See, it clearly says that there are two types of people. There are math people and those who aren't. And if you're struggling in math, then you've simply figured out which type of person you are. But if that's the case, why would anyone ever try to get better at math, to improve their grades, or to genuinely understand the concepts that are being presented to them? Further, it discredits the hard work that the so-called math people have been doing to learn and practice the subject all along the way. This idea that somebody is simply not a math student is basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. If a student decides, or worse, if a parent or a teacher decides for them, that they're simply not this special, anointed type of student, well, then what reason do they have to push, to try to improve their current level of skills? In fact, research has shown that struggling students can actually improve their mathematical abilities and even begin to excel. For example, it has been shown that if students simply decide to start doing their homework consistently when they hadn't before, that now they start to see themselves as the type of student who does their homework consistently. Then this view of themselves, their increasing grades, and understanding what's happening in class all help them to start seeing themselves as a good student in general. Then they start seeing themselves as the kind of student who can and should go to college, despite the fact that they started off as a struggling student. We see that believing that you're this type of student moves you along a path of ever-increasing academic efforts and successes. But the opposite is true for those who see themselves as not a math person or not a good math student. Notice though, these students who turned around did not simply believe or wish their way into a better understanding of math. They decided to take steps to get better in this subject, and those steps make them into the kind of person that gets called a math person. See, it's not something inherent, it is the result of a process. In that light, somebody saying, well, I'm just not a math person, is similar to me saying, well, I'm just not a violinist. But the truth is, I never even reached out for the violin in the first place. In her work on the growth mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck shows that generally, anyone can learn anything that anyone else can. However, they have to know that both their intelligence and their abilities are malleable, and they have to have a mindset that leads to them constantly improving the way that they do things. This isn't saying that people who are struggling in math simply need to work harder or that they're being lazy. It just means that they might have to find ways to work smarter. Everyone needs an understanding of math, and honestly, the more the better. It helps with everything from household tasks and daily calculations all the way up to complex problem solving in the workplace. It makes no sense to imply that somebody shouldn't worry if they're not doing well in this subject, and like we just talked about a minute ago, everyone can learn how to do math well. In summary, everybody needs to learn math and everybody can learn math. It's not about being a math person or not. Math can be an incredibly difficult subject to become successful in, especially if you're starting off behind. Improvement requires intentional class participation, as well as effective use of both course materials and online resources. You have to find and repair missing blocks of understanding, and all this is in addition to spending hours of working, checking, and reworking practice problems. If you want to become a better math student, or even an exceptional math student, know that you can do it, and the effort is worth it. Stop throwing up our hands and saying, I'm not a math person, and instead find ways to help those who are struggling to see the value in studying math and also to find ways to become a strong math student. If you want more information on how to actually do this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll see when we post our next video, how to be a better math student. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Montgomery Mathematics.